When I was 7 years old, I was an atheist. I remember looking out of the window out on my bunk bed, and in the summer particularly, I'd wait to see if I could actually watch the street light go out. And more often than not, I'd either blink or turn away or forget all about it, and the next thing I know, the street light would be out. But every once in a while, it was a magical moment just to see it as the light went out. Well, I remember one time while I was waiting, and I was 7, and I was up in my bunk bed, and I thought about God, and I thought, there must not be a God. How can any one being talk to 5 billion people at the same time? So, at 7 years old, I was an atheist. It changed when I was 8. I worked a lot, and even at 8 years old, I had a job. And I used to, for 50 cents, pick 2 boxes of oranges down at the old egg stand. It was an old German woman who's probably in her 80s. And she would pay me $1.25 a box, and she'd sell them for $3, and we both were happy. And it would take me about an hour to pick 2 boxes of oranges. With that, I could buy a Pepsi, chips, and go swimming, all for 50 cents. So my day was set once I had those oranges picked. And I did it many, many times. And I remember coming to her house one time, and I'd knock on the back door, and she came and said, I don't want you picking the oranges the way you used to. I want you to use these clippers. Now, I got these clippers in Germany, and they're very expensive, and I can't replace them. Do not lose them. Well, she scared me. I wasn't going to lose them. So I went out. She showed me to hold the oranges and then clip each one and then put it in the bag. Well, I did that for about 10, 15 oranges, and it was taking me forever. I was never going to get to go swimming. So I just slipped them in my back pocket and went on to where I always did it. Just picked them as fast as I could. Always picked good ones and orange ones, and picked them all and dumped them in the boxes. And when I had 2 boxes full, I was ready to swim. Well, on my way back to her back door, I reached in my back pocket, and my clippers were gone. Now, this wouldn't mean nothing to my son. He would just call me up and said, Dad, I had lost the clippers. I'm going to have to pay for them. But it was different for me because my dad was really abusive physically and emotionally. And I remember when I was 4 years old, I was in New York, and we moved when I was 5. And the first time my dad ever beat me, I remember him beating my mom and my brothers and sister, but never me at that age. But I had a bathroom accident, and he told me if it ever happened again, he was going to beat me, and I'd seen what he could do, and so it scared me. And so I remember having to go to the bathroom, and I ran to the bathroom, and halfway there he met me and just pounded me. And I always felt the injustice of that. I was trying to make it to the bathroom so I wouldn't get beaten. Well, I'd been beaten hundreds of times, and I'd seen him take my mom and grab her by the hair and drag her down and kick her when she was 8 months pregnant. So it's a pretty violent household, and I knew that if he found out I lost those clippers and it was Saturday and he was home, he would kill me. And I really felt like he would kill me because I'd had some beatings to where I couldn't go to school and was pretty injured. So at 8 years old, this was a life and death struggle here. And so I decided either I was going to find those clippers or I was going to run away, because there was no way I was going to go home and tell my dad that I lost the clippers. And that old lady would have made me, or she'd have called my house. So I started looking. I went and looked at the Valencias that I was picking, and took my ladder back to all the trees that I'd picked at, and looked. And then I looked at all of Valencia's trees. There's probably 30 of them. Then I went over to the navels, and I knew I wasn't there, but I thought, I've got to find these clippers. And pretty soon I'm panicked. And an 8-year-old boy shouldn't have that kind of pressure on him, and I was panicked. I've got to find these clippers. I'm going to die if I don't find these clippers. And I remember feeling that, and I so want to come back, and I wish I could reach back and tell that boy, it's going to be okay. You're going to have a lovely wife and great kids and a good job, and you're going to make it. But at that time, all I could think about was either running away or finding those clippers. So I started searching, and I looked everywhere and looked all through these trees and couldn't find them anywhere. So then I'd go all around the trees, and I'd check every tree, and then I started running around like a madman. I remember just feeling crazy, screaming and yelling and running from tree to tree to tree. And I remember rubbing my face, and my hands were so dirty because I was crying, and the dirt was covered, and my hands were full of mud, and I couldn't find him. And I remember thinking, and I knew I was an atheist. I knew there was no God, but my mom had told me there was a God. And I remember sitting on the ground, and I crossed my legs, and I sat there, and I said, God, you know I can't go home. I can't go home. He will kill me. Please, God, please bring me those clippers. And I opened my eyes, and there were the clippers at my feet. I didn't even have to reach for them. They were right there, practically right in front of my legs. And I reached down and grabbed them and jumped up and said, "Thank you, God! Thank you, God!" And from that moment on, I knew there was a God. Now, I've forgiven my dad and hopefully prayed him into heaven and gave him a Bible and stuff and became a Christian later on. But, that was my life as a young boy learning about God.